In our previous videos, we've looked at how do we create forms, buttons groups, etc., all using Bootstrap. Now we're going to create something called an input group. An input group is similar to a button group where we're going to group two items together so that they work together. However, we're going to get some added advantages by doing so. You'll see what I mean in just a second. So let's take a quick look. I have my source code here, and the first thing I'm going to do is create a new div. The class is going to be input group like you see here. And then I'm going to put MB-3 just because I want some space below it, because I'm going to have a couple of different examples that you can see. Then I'm going to put a span. And we haven't used very many spans, but spans have a lot of uses. It's an inline tag. That means that it doesn't take up the full block width and allows us to put just what we want. You do input group dash ID @ symbol. You'll see why I'm going to use that in just a second. Inside my span, I'm going to put the @ symbol. So what is this going to do? Well, I'm going to have an input box right after this. This is going to be a type, text, going to have a class of form-control, which is something you probably remember back when we did the form tags. Placeholder, username, aria-label, username. This lets anyone who's using a visual assistive technology have a name for what it is. Then I'm going to see an aria described by. Well, this is where I'm going to use that @ symbol, which is from the ID of my span. That way it says what's describing this. Okay, so what is this going to do? This is kind of weird. Well, the group, as we know from working with the button groups, is going to put two things together so we don't have rounded edges and stuff like that. We have a span, and it's defining or describing something. Now, it's just an @ symbol. So what is this going to look like? Let's come here and reload. And now you can see how I have my whole username here, but I have a little @ symbol at the front. So a lot of times if I see something like on Twitter or Instagram or something like that, it's like, oh, if I hit the @ symbol, then I can type in a person's username. I can reference them. That's what we're talking about here. It's just saying, hey, type in a username that you want to see. So if I wanted to maybe create and say, hey, I want this username. Can I see it? Maybe, maybe not. Here you go. And so this becomes a really great way for managing something like that. The @ symbol is in a slightly darkened state. I can't edit it. I can't change it, but I'm helping describe what goes with this username. So next I want to try to create an example where you can put in your own email address, define what you want it to be, and then it says @ and then the domain name. So let's take a look at that. Start off very similar and say div class input group, and then once again do MD-3. It's just I want a little bit of extra space at the bottom. And then instead of putting the span first and then the input, I'm going to do my input tag first and then my span. I'm going to say input, type is going to be text, class is going to be form control, email name, and I could go through the aria and aria described by if I want to, but for simplicity's sake, I'm going to leave that out. Then I'm going to have my span, and this class is going to be input group text. Once again, I don't need the ID because I'm not using the aria described by, just for simplicity's sake, and I'm going to say @example.com. Come over here, reload, and now you see the email name @example.com, which is exactly what you would want to see. So this is a pretty simple way. So I can say, hey, I want to use my name. Chance to look it up. Okay. So there's a variety of things I can use to help me with something like this. Now, one thing I'm going to just show you real quick here is where I can actually use that group text on both sides. So you see here I have a $, and then I have a group text here that shows 0.00. So if I only want to show a certain dollar amount, I can. And so you see here, I can have my two different texts on each side. Now, both these are taking the full width of my column. Obviously, I want to probably control that, because that is a bit wide, especially for something like this. You don't want people to think they have to enter in a huge number, but this would be great for something like an online auction form, where you only want to take auctions by $1. So here's just another example you can look at. Now, just like you can have multiple spans with the multiple input group text, you can have a single group text with multiple form fields. So let's just show you that real quick. I have a div, class, input group. So we'll say enter your full name. Notice how I have my span, enter your full name, and then I have two separate input fields, first name and last name. I come right here and reload this. You notice I have the full name, place for a first name, and a place for a last name. So little things I can do. Now, is this how I really want to do it? Maybe, maybe not. It's just kind of, once again, depends upon my situation. What is it that I'm looking for? So this is just a couple things I can be looking at to help lay out my page. Now, there are other things that you can do with your input groups. I just want to give a brief introduction so you had a chance to see what was capable with them, so you knew what was possible and what you could do. And then you can start to use it based upon what it is that you need for your specific case. Hopefully you found this video helpful, and you'll want to stick around for our next video, which is going to be on how do we add custom CSS to a page that's already using Bootstrap. It's actually quite simple, so stick around for that. And if you weren't aware, this is part of a series, and I have a playlist up for you to take a look at that as well.